Hello and welcome to another video here at AV Forums. This time we're taking you through our recommended picture settings for the Philips 65PUS7601 Ultra HD 4K TV. So the first thing we're going to mention is that, as with all of our reviews, we tested this TV using our calibration equipment, and the settings we're going to tell you about were for the TV that we reviewed. They may not be applicable for your TV. In fact, they may make things worse rather than better. However, if you want to give them a try, then feel free and see what you think with the results. Okay, first of all, we need to go into the menu system, and there's a menu button on the remote control, settings button, press that. See, they come down on the right hand side, and then we want to select all settings. Go into there. And the first thing we'll do is we'll go across to picture style. Now you can see there are a number of different picture styles here. We're going to be using ISF night and ISF day. So starting with ISF night. The idea is obviously we're going to create two settings, one for watching TV in the evening when there's minimal ambient light in the room, and one for watching TV during the day when there's a lot more ambient light in the room and obviously you need a brighter image. So starting with the night setting, we go to colour, leave that at 50. Contrast you can set to 10. It's a pretty bright panel, and a setting of 10 was more than bright enough to give you a nice bright image for watching TV at night. You don't want it too bright, otherwise it can be uncomfortable to watch and will result in eye fatigue. Sharpness down to 0. Brightness leave at 50. Advanced. Okay, going across we've got colour. Now we're going to use the colour temperature of custom. We actually measured all the colour temperatures. Colour temperature warm, which should have been the most accurate, had way too much blue in it. So we're going to use the colour temperature setting of custom, which also had too much blue in it, but we can adjust that and bring that blue down and give us a much more accurate grayscale. So go across to custom colour temperature, and then along here you'll see we've brought green down to 96 and blue way down to 56. We then brought red down from the low setting and added a little bit more at the low point for blue. But basically you need to get this blue down to around about 56 to 60 to get all that blue out of the grayscale. And then under colour control, you can see that we've just adjusted it slightly here. We've reduced the green hue by -5, and we've added +2 to red and +2 to yellow in terms of saturation. Okay. In terms of contrast mode, we're using best picture, which is for the local dimming. HDR upscaling is a fake HDR mode. You can experiment with it if you like, but we're leaving it off. Perfect contrast we're leaving off. Video contrast, which is what most TVs just call contrast, set that to 90. Any higher than that and the TV will clip. Light sensor off, and gamma you can leave at 0. Moving across to sharpness, ultra resolution off, noise reduction off, and MPEG noise artifact reduction off. And then for motion, we've turned off perfect natural motion for any film-based content. However, feel free to experiment with it. Maybe if you're watching sports, which is shot on video cameras, you might find it useful, but we've turned it off, and clear LCD we've also turned off. Okay, that's our nighttime setting. Let's now go into our daytime setting. And then colour still at 50. Contrast is now at 40. This is basically the backlight control, so it would normally be called backlight, and that's set to 40, giving us a brighter image. Sharpness still 0, brightness 50, and under advanced, we've got, again, colour temperature we're using custom, and again, we need to bring that blue right down. So we're using 96 again for green, 58 for blue, and we've got -4 at the low end for red, and +5 at the low end for blue. And then the colour control, all we need to do is just adjust the hue by -5 on the green. Under contrast, again, best picture contrast mode, HDR upscaling off, perfect contrast off, video contrast 90, light sensor off, and gamma at 0. Sharpness, ultra resolution off, noise reduction off, and MPEG artifact reduction off, and motion, perfect natural motion off, unless you want to use it for things like sport, and LCD, clear LCD off. Okay, those are our day and night settings. We're going to show you a HDR setting in a second, but a couple of other little points that we should mention for picture format. Go into that. can see under advanced, use it for original, because that way you won't be zooming in or scaling the image, and you end up with unnecessary scaling artifacts. Particularly important to use original when you're using 4K sources, although the TV does actually default to that in most cases. And then also under all settings, down here under general settings, you'll see there's Hdmi Ultra HD. Now, two of the HDMI inputs are HDMI 2.0A. Just make sure that they're set to UHD 444 to 422, and that way you can send, if your player upscales the chroma up subsampling, then you can use that as well. So just set it to that if you want to. Okay, now we're going to send it an HDR signal, and we'll show you some HDR settings. We're now sending an HDR signal, and when the TV detects an HDR signal, actually you get a message in the corner of the screen saying HDR, so you'll know. But if you go into the menu system again, and we go to all settings, and now we go across the picture style, you can see that it's got HDR in there, so that shows you this. It's receiving an HDR signal and it's in the HDR mode. Importantly, for any gamers out there, there's also an HDR Game Mode, which means that you can use the game mode and the low input lag of the game mode even when you're using HDR game for HDR games. So if you're getting an HDR signal from an HDR game, you can still use the game mode. So that's quite handy and nice little feature there from Philips. We're going to use the ISF night mode for our HDR setting. So now color 50, HDR contrast is now set to 100, sharpness is still 0, brightness is still 50, and over in the advanced settings, color, we're using the color temperature still at custom and still the same settings as before, because that gives us a nice even grayscale even in HDR. And then under contrast mode best picture, HDR video contrast is set to 88. Anything higher than that, it'll clip the image. But at 88, we get the image nicely tone mapped from the original HDR content to the native brightness of the television itself. And then gamma is still at 0. Sharpness, same as before, ultra resolution off, noise reduction off, and MPEG artifact reduction off. And then over in motion, again, for any film-based content, we're leaving perfect natural motion off and clear LCD off as well. And there you go it. Those are our settings for a day setting, a night setting, and an HDR setting for the Philips 65PUS7601. Thanks for watching.